Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer. Whether it's delegating, orchestrating, gatewaying, developing, transcoding, anything to do on the Livepeer network, we're here to ask questions and get answers. We got a couple topics ahead of us around increased fees on the network, models of GPUs, LORAs, new Orch release, Encode hackathon. So yeah, those are kind of the things we're going to cover today. Let's go ahead and start off with the Encode hackathon and updates from what's going on from like the builder side things. And do you want to kick us off with introduction as to what these events were that were listed earlier today and how people can get involved?
Yes. So for those who don't know, Livepeer is running a hackathon with Encode, including partners Story, Swarm Zero, and Zora. It is going to be running for the next 4 weeks. The first 2 weeks are more education, workshops, and then the second 2 weeks are building. I dropped the link to the Encode Club server for folks to check that out, but each one is recorded, and I'm pretty sure they will be posting those recorded sessions in their server, but I'll also get those recorded videos and post them in our server. So yeah, there's a bunch of prizes. I think it's over $15,000 in prizes, a lot of different categories, a lot of different opportunities to win. So, and of course, this is centered around Livepeer AI and utilizing not only Livepeer AI, but our partners to create interesting user applications for decentralized AI. So that is the general overview. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. But yeah.
Very cool. No, that's really awesome to see that we got hackathons going on and startup programs for people that want to build on AI, Livepeer infrastructure. So that's really cool. How long is the hackathon going for?
Yeah, so the hackathon is running for 4 weeks. So it starts today and ends in the middle of October. So yeah, 4 weeks.
And what are the prizes?
Okay, let me pull this up. So the prizes are, 1 second. To find the link limit. Give me 1 second. Dang, I can't find that link. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna mute for a quick second so I can find the link. But there is total 15,000. But let me find the link really quick.
Sure. Yeah, no worries. Well, in the meantime, let's just keep moving on for the topics. Pop back in with that number. Yeah, let's continue on to. I'm going to go in this order: the latest release of the Orch, as well as LORAs, and then we're going to talk about increased fees, what's happening in the network. So, Mike, can you tell us? It was your topic. I know you were just announcing it, but can you tell us what is happening in the new Orch release? What the upgrades are, and what Orcs will be upgrading
Actually, I found it before you jump in.
Okay, yeah, and finish off the topic.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we have 3 categories that are for Livepeer. We have social media app, which is basically creating a application that utilizes Livepeer AI pipelines to create novel user experiences with viral potential. And the first prize is 2,000, second prize 1,000, third prize 500. We have developer tools and also creator tools with the same list of prizes, so 2,000, 1,000, 500. And then Swarm Zero, they have an integration, so create the future of AI, and their bounty. And let me just send this link in the chat really quick. In their bounty, they have 3 prizes: first place 1,000, second place 500, third place 300, and honorable mentions are 2 with 100 each. Story Protocol has 2 $1,000 dollar prizes, and then Zora has 5 $400 prizes. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of prizes online, so I think there's a pretty high chance for folks to get something from participation.
Very cool. Yeah. So if you are a builder or listening to this recording or live, head over to the link and join the hackathon. Cool. Okay, let's continue on. Mike says, here's the link for the announcement. So yeah, the wait is finally over today. You can now utilize LORAs on the Livepeer network. Huge thanks to Marco for spearheading this initiative, and John for the invaluable support in reviewing and enhancing this feature. We've also all rolled out an automatic LoRa loading algorithm, allowing orchestrators to serve any LoRa model available on Hugging Face. Currently, the system supports up to 12 models in memory or 2 GB of free VRAM, with further optimizations planned for the future versions. As the hackathon approaches, ensure that your software is updated to the latest versions. Soon, the development gateway will require orchestrators to be running the latest following version. Also, additionally, there's been a gateway discovery timeout flag that has been added. So yeah, awesome. Thank you for the timeout gateway flag, because I was running into that issues with my location being far from.
Yes. So that's the main release, right, from Rick and his team. But my point was the Livepeer cloud gateways were updated. We have not enforced the upgrade on Orcs yet. We want to give folks a chance to upgrade their orchestrator to the latest versions. We're still at 0.77. AI1, I think, is the version we're currently our min version. So we will upgrade that at some point in the future. Obviously, if you want to participate in the, like they said, the hackathon and a lot of the stuff they're doing, you're going to have to keep your orcs updated, or you're not going to end up, you'll be in a situation where you're running software, but you won't be getting any work. So definitely, make sure you upgrade. The other thing to note from the Livepeer Cloud SPE perspective is we increased the discovery timeout now. So all gateways in all of our regions can reach every orc around the world. So you should see consistent results now on the AI generator Livepeer Cloud website that shows, most orcs. I know there were a couple people in the EU that weren't reachable on the US West and vice versa. So it looks like everybody should be discoverable from everywhere. So that should be good update. And that's really it. Just keeping folks in the loop, making sure they're paying attention.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I'll be upgrading my gateway to include orcs much further. Hopefully I can include all the orcs in Europe now. Because I don't get many requests on Let's Generate AI, but when I do, I think a lot of the people that can do the work are in Europe. So
yeah,
nice to just, it doesn't really matter if it takes an extra 3 seconds or something. It's like, it would just be nice if it got a response.
I don't think it affects the response times per se. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of additional latency, but the problem has been the discovery process from the gateway to the orc, that by default, there's a 500 millisecond discovery time check. So by increasing that, we just doubled it from our West Coast gateway from 500 milliseconds to 1,000 milliseconds. And we were able to pull in all the orcs. But it's just discovery, like sending the jobs, if they're latent, if they can serve it in 1.5 seconds and they're in the EU and you're on the Western, US, you get it back in, 700 milliseconds. it's really not that much of a difference.
I have a question though. The gateway timeout or the discovery timeout. If you say you increased it to just some absurd amount, 10 seconds, wouldn't it wait for the 10-second timeout to finish before it moved on to the next process of sending the
Yeah, but that's discovery, right? Like that discovery process doesn't happen that often.
Okay, right. So
Like it finds the orcs, and once it has the list, it uses them, right?
right. Okay. So I could just set it arbitrarily to 10 seconds, but that's not going to affect the response time of handling the work when the request comes in, because it's already got its cached, orcs that it's going to reach out to.
Yeah, there will be some time period where it will check again to make sure the latest orcs are there, and you'll pay a price there. But I don't think that like stops jobs from coming in. You know what I mean? I think those are two independent things. I would probably need Rick or Brad to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that the discovery is not like every time you send a job doesn't tie into discovery.
Is the discovery a background process, or does it get randomly looped in with a random job request?
Yeah, and I'm not 100% there. John, you're gonna take this one for me, save me.
Yeah. So if the orchestrator pool is below a certain number, it will do discovery requests on when requests come in for work. So its aim is to fill the pool of available orchestrators. So as far as I know, that's how it works. And so you'll see a lot of logs print out if there's not enough available orchestrators for a certain model, for example, when a request comes in to the gateway.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. So if you have a job coming in for a warm model of ByteDance and there's very little orchestrators on the network running it, then it will call that discovery. So yeah, use it carefully. I wouldn't, change it significantly high. Like we tested just, doing like 250 millisecond increments. So we went to 750, we went to 1000, and we were just testing how quickly could we get the entire list from the West Coast to the EU. And we were right on the edge at 250, but we bumped it up to 1000 on the edge at 750, we missed one or two orcs. And then when we bumped it up to 1000 milliseconds, we were able to get them all. So we wanted to keep it as low as possible.
Yeah, I guess my question is, okay, so my gateway, it's doing a discovery request every time you send it a job, because clearly the pool is not large enough, not filling up with any EU nodes, right? So
yeah, if your discovery time's too low, you'll do lots of discovery requests till you get more orcs in.
Yeah, every single request that my gateway gets, it's doing a discovery, right?
Yeah,
because it gets either 1 or 0 basically nodes. And
yeah.
so the question is, let's say there is only one node that could do this particular job, and I want to set my timeout at 2 seconds, so that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, I'm going to give you an ample time to reply. Does that mean there's just like an added 2-second latency to every single request because it's doing the discovery check every request? Probably, hey.
That sounds likely. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with how that. I'm pretty sure that it is a synchronous loop with the discovery, but I know that it also runs in the background.
Yeah, so if you're like you were saying, if it's too many, if there's too few orcs in the pool, then you could find yourself constantly making discovery checks. So yes, it would sound that's true.
Because the thing about streams is what like let's say you have a 1 second or 2 second discovery timeout for finding a new stream. Once you establish that stream, you're good to go. And if you had to do a discovery check every time a new stream came in, that would that wouldn't be optimal, but if it's an hour-long stream, I mean, it's only the first 2 seconds that you're trying to figure out, the best possible node, right? Whereas requests for AI jobs are more like request every segment. Like, imagine if you had to do a discovery check, every segment of a stream, right? Like, that wouldn't make any sense. But that's kind of what's happening with AI work, right? So, is it worth putting the discovery check in a background loop or something like that? Oh, we see it. We pulled up Brad.
Yeah, Brad's here.
Or unless Elite wants to comment on this.
What?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking that's a great idea for a long time. There's a lot of changes that we need to make, I think, in Go Livepeer, but you can kind of see the effect of it if you start an orchestrator with an orc address set, where you just have one orc address there. It still tries to check the whole network looking for orchestrators to add to the pool, even though you've specified to only use one. And then that actually delays the startup of a gateway. So making that sort of like a background thread that's running that has like a queue, like there's some type of pool that we already have a pool. I think that would be better. That way, as long as you have at least one orchestrator, it can use those and do these discovery checks asynchronously outside the process of even startup or request handling. That makes sense. So I might be jumping to some technical conclusions there. I'll open.
No, that makes sense to me. I think we were running into the same problems, John, where when we were doing our AI job tester, we want to be able to say, hey, gateway, I want you to test this single orc. So we would set like the orc address on a webhook URL for a single orc, and we would want to be able to find that orc and then just send them a test. And we were thinking, like, if it's just one, you shouldn't even have a process. It should just be, hey, here's your URL, right? Like, don't go discovering the whole pool when you're only going to get one back anyway. So, but you're right. I think that's more the concept is pull a bunch of orcs together, and putting a single orc in there is probably not something that but having it in the background would be ideal, and that way you can boot up immediately. But what's good is if you boot up immediately and you don't have anyone able to do work, right? So I guess, chicken or the egg.
On the webhook, just to hit that real quick, that's not going to update until you refresh discovery. So it's not immediate. I think even if it reaches out, it might not update. Yeah,
the webhook has I forget if it's 10 minutes or there's a certain number of minutes that hard coded in there. So yes, for the webhook URL, we had to make changes to get around that. But yes.
And okay, so just to pull back to that discovery loop thing, the only thing though is if we had like a background discovery loop that went asynchronously, don't you have a problem with like which model you're even requesting? Is the purpose of doing the discovery loop as the request comes in for an AI job is because you don't know what the AI job is, right? Like it could be a totally new model. Like the orchestrator doesn't actually know what model people want. It's just forwarding the request to see who on the network has it. So the problem is you can't actually go to the network and be like, here's a list of 20 models. Please let me cache which models would have orcs that could do them in the background.
You can like with just a complicated problem, but
and
so,
maybe an unnecessary one.
You can. So like AI is different in that it reuses the selector. So once a request has come in, it has a list of orchestrators that had it. There's a loop that goes every hour that sends out the generic, hey, who's out there, who's responding, and they'll respond with all their capabilities, but the wrong pricing, right? So you have to also do another loop with each selector, probably, each pipeline model combination to get the right pricing. An orchestrator sends back pricing. That pricing is good for 30 minutes. So when the auth token expires, that's when that pricing that gateway got back would also expire. So right now, what we see as well, since we reuse selectors, is that if a request hasn't come in or that 30 minutes has passed for whatever reason, when that orchestrator is selected, it will refresh that orchestrator's pricing and auth token to be able to fulfill the request. I see that in the logs all the time. This stuff is on our radar. It's just not the hottest fire burning right now to fix. And the last thing that also happens, Titan, on yours, if you are requesting a model that has less than 8 orchestrators right now, it will always refresh. That's kind of a hard-coded minimum from transcoding side. It is in the works to get fixed on some of my suspension fixes that's getting reviewed right now, where it'll basically just say this was the initial pool size. Don't refresh if this initial pool size is still here and these orchestrators are still responding and serving. So, as I said, it's a little complicated, about 4 arms to it,
So yeah,
and
I
it's
guess
on our radar.
I guess this problem almost solves itself when you get enough orchestrators
Yeah,
hosting the models, right?
yeah. But then even with like SAM 2, it just got hit with so many requests, it's still going to refresh all the time because it's just getting hammered with requests all at once.
Why? What? SAM2 model, you have to go do discovery again on the SAM2 if it.
Yeah, because it's getting 40 to 80 requests like at one time. So
Oh, so it's running out of the pool. Like it has no more.
it's running out of the pool even. So like it can still happen as things go on, depending on request load. But I think over time we'll kind of look at that harder when we can have a little bit more time to not build out the foundational things.
But wait a minute. So if you get hit with 40 at once, and say you have 8 orchestrators, the first 8 it's gonna say, hey, boom, boom, boom. Here's your jobs, and then it's gonna go, okay, those orchestrators are busy. I'm gonna refresh the discovery for each one of the remaining 32 jobs.
Should be for all of them. It depends on the timing. To be honest, if they all come in at the same instant, there's no lock. There's no synchronous lock
Okay,
on it, so it will.
So
It
then, is it
will
going to
upgrade.
return back to the? Is the gateway going to return back? No capacity or like can't do this job
It can. Um,
because there's
if
no queuing on the orchestra on the gateway side, right?
correct,
Right.
correct. That's going to be at the SDK level. There's going to be retries up
That's
there.
right. Okay. Which is fine. This is fine. I'm just like
Retries and failover, so you could set multiple gateways possibly and say, okay, that one didn't work. Let's try another one.
okay. I can see how this is. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Because we were looking at longer inference requests, thinking of a way to maybe create like a job status response from the gateway side. But if we implement that on the SDK side, that looks a little different. We do have a separate set of selection classes and stuff for the AI. So we can change AI selection, separate from transcode. But that may be something that Studio looks, more into as, make this more robust on the front end. But yeah, I think a lot of other platforms you see like you request a job, it runs, and you can make additional requests to see the status of the job and when it's done, and then like another URL to get the responses back. So that might be an interesting pattern to look at in the future with this.
All right, so discovery timeout. I'm gonna play around with like 10 sec because I only have. I'm not gonna get probably 8 orchestrators to fill up my like maybe the ByteDance one. I'm not sure if there's 8, but I'm gonna increase my timeout to like 10 seconds. It's like
There's
play
a
around
max
with
of
that.
3.
Was that?
There's a max of 3.
Oh,
Can't
you
go
put
above
you
3.
put a hard cap in?
The hard cap's always been there. It's just a max timeout overall the whole loop. So what we put in was you could adjust the steps of the loop. So if you do anything above 1.5 seconds, you're basically going to get 1 or 2 loops on it. But if you do 3 seconds, you will wait the whole 3 seconds, and it will only loop 1 time, if that makes sense. Because it keeps trying. It does the first loop, sees if it got any. If it didn't, it doubles the time, does it again, sees if it got any orchestrators, and if it did, it'll kick out. So you really just want, like what Mike was doing, the minimum viable time to get all orchestrators. So I think we're going to, on our development gateway, we're also going to use 1 second for right now, just to let us get everybody that we can.
Right, but like timing isn't like a big issue on mine, so I'd rather just set it to like just like be sure that I have the apps, because with my app, getting a response saying no one's available is worse than waiting 3 seconds, right? So
Right.
I'd rather just have the user wait 3 seconds, and hopefully one day there'll be more than 8 orchestrators that can serve this model, and so therefore, it just won't have that issue. But in the meantime, I'd rather just like, you've got a node in Singapore, awesome, let's do it. Like, I don't we're early, so I'm gonna set mine to 3 just to see what the user experience is and see what the logs.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You also just try half of that, like 1500 milliseconds. If 3 seconds is working, you can also experiment with half of that, so that you can try just 2 loops and the whole get orchestrators. Not responding in 1.5 seconds to get orchestrator requests, which is pretty basic compute type stuff. I think that would be odd. So that would suggest that there's likely network issues between you and them anyway.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just a heads up, Titan. When you set your thing, make sure you add the MS after the numerical value. We missed that when we were first trying it, and it was confusing the hell out of us. We thought the flag wasn't working.
So
good. Like, if we're gonna use like 1,000 milliseconds, it's just not. It's not 1,000. It's 1,000 MS. Because it's none of the other flags require that, as far as I know. So yeah, definitely. That's scratching our heads for a minute.
Good to know. Okay, so
Trying to
I'll
save you some time.
Try out like 3,000 MS. See what shows up. Cool. Okay, yeah, that's good. At least I just get to adjust it, play around. There's also still that issue of the min orc version. You still need to specify that flag as a gateway.
You do. I mean, it just depends on what features you want to support. As of the 7.8 release, 0.7.8, you have to have at least 0.7.8 or higher running, because there was some changes that were made to the messaging between the orc and the gateway, and it causes it not to work properly with older software. So you got to have at least that 0.7.8. I forget if it's AI 1 or something like that, but there's that minimum version needs to be there. Now going forward, like this release came out, you don't need to change the lower version. But as Rick pointed out in his announcement, is to make sure that the network's running at its best. It's ideal to have orchestrators keeping up with the latest versions, even though there's some are breaking changes and some are backwards compatible. It's in your best interest as an orc to, when a release comes out, try to keep current.
Yeah, because I think I have mine set to like 0.76, but I think that's too old, right? So
yes, that is too old. I don't think there's many orcs running that old software because of the last upgrade. You know, I think most orcs are at least at 7.8 now. So I don't think you're going to have a problem. But again, if you have a particular feature that you want to make sure that you're only getting orcs that have those capabilities turned on, then you would need to specify that min version to make sure that you only select orcs that have the version number you need running in order for your app to work.
Right, so I just switched mine to 0.7.8-AI.1.
Yep, I think that's right where the cloud gateway is. I don't have the .ai. I don't know if I mean, I have to check that, Papa Bear. Can you confirm that?
We're actually running 0.7.7.7-AI.2.
Okay.
We're not at 7.8 yet. We were waiting.
Oh, we're probably going to bump up now. The next release, we try to stay 2 releases back, right? Unless there's a breaking change. So this new release, we probably should update it to 7.8 AI 1.
John, what happens on the LORAs if it hits an orchestrator that's not updated to 7.9?
That I think you would get. I don't think we've tested that. Or I haven't looked at it specifically, but the LORAs field would probably be parsed as an invalid option.
Okay. I haven't tested it either. I've been on other things.
So should we? So are you saying we should force the 7079?
Yeah, that's
upgrade?
correct. Yeah, that was our plan that we discussed yesterday. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, sorry, Rick didn't mention that.
Okay, then I'll have to make an announcement to the org community to upgrade this week. We definitely don't want to run in a way where we can break things.
Yeah, I'm working on rebasing all of mine. Super fun. Right now.
We also did a quick rebase just to catch up with the latest from AI the main branch on the Go Livepeer side.
So the every timeout, the gateway version. So we just do Docker pull, right, to update the whole gateway. I guess AI video. Docker.
Yeah, you got to update your version number to match from the announcement. But yeah, Docker pull that and then.
Oh.
Cool. Awesome. There we go. See if I run that discovery timeout 3000 ms. So I do Docker pull 3000 ms. Let's see. It likes the input so far. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we'll see if we can run that and see how it goes. Okay. Any other comments or questions around the Docker timeout or the new? Sorry, not the timeout, discovery timeout, and the new update? Because then we'll jump into the LORAs topic, which is Papa Bear's. Papa Bear, do you want to kick us off with LORAs and what that's all about?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, we wanted to update the AI generator to use some, but we didn't really know what was like an easy way to do that. Because I guess, each LoRa has got to be specific to the model and it's got to make sense to the end user. So we were just kind of trying to figure out what makes sense or find out if anyone's actually using it and how they're using it. But I'm guessing nobody is right now. So I think sounds like we're on our own.
So what is LORAs?
Because
LORAs are
just like
go ahead.
I'll let John answer that.
They're essentially like a
usually
filter.
an extension on the model. Yeah, it's like a fine tuning the model to to work well with specific, like a specific instruction or prompt, I should say. So like if you want it to be pixelated, it's got like special like logic in there too. It's been trained to make good looking pixelated images.
And so is this a new model that we have to load, or is this like a flag we have to set within our model config?
No, you don't have to load. It should auto load for you from, it should pull it down from Hugging Face. And I see Rick just jumped up. I'll let him explain it because
Hello.
the code much better than I do.
Hola.
How you doing, guys? I didn't have much time today, so
Sure.
sorry for joining late. So the questions were about LORAs, or
Yeah, so what
I
are
have
LORAs?
Brett and John here as well.
How do we use them?
So LORAs are I call it smaller trained, lower rank models that are trained on the base model, and they can be applied on the base model by changing certain structures of the model. So the weight, for example, the transformer, the unit. They can be disabled, they can be enabled, and how we currently implemented it is that it will auto load. So basically what will happen, you get a request for text to image, for example. You will just run the base model. If the user supplies a LoRa, the LoRa gets loaded into memory and it gets applied on top of the weight. So there is an encoding for every weight in the model or layer what has to change. So if the LoRa request comes in, we enable this. So first we load it in VRAM. We do this up to currently 12 models in VRAM, or a higher limit from if you only have 2 gigabytes VRAM left, it will also be cleaned. And after that, it will enable it.
Brad,
It will do the
Brad,
inference
your
with
microphone is
Sorry.
picking up feedback. Sorry, Rick, go
I
ahead.
don't know how that was possible. It was muted.
I can still hear you.
Alright. I just unmuted. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
Okay.
So when you're doing the LoRa request, it will get enabled the weight, so the weight that were trained on base of the base model. It does the request, and then if another normal request comes in, it's disabled again. It's still loaded in memory. And then if you get another LoRa request, it looks for the LoRas that already are loaded into memory. If all the LoRas that are in memory, it will just use those. And disable the ones that it will not use. And if there's a new LoRa, it looks at the buffer. Are there already 12 LoRas in the buffer? Then it will clean the oldest one, and then it loads it again. So that's currently how we implemented it. This is the first trial, so we set the limit a little bit low. Or at least it could be higher on some GPUs. And also we could give orchestrators the ability to set how much VRAM they want to allocate to a given model. And everything is done automatically. And a big shout out to Marco, if he's also here, because he started this LoRa track, and John for doing the reviewing there and helping me. I hope that was clear. Silence.
So it sounds like just for me to understand what you just said. Basically, it's a optimization or a specific flag that's passed from the user, and orchestrators now have the ability to use this LoRa fine tuning to produce the result they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it will provide orchestrates the ability to serve, in the end, I think thousands per base model, different kind of styles. So that's the benefit of a LoRa.
Just so you know, Titan, LoRa's, basically a way to just augment the output. And one of the like really stupid LoRa's that I saw on the list that the studio link, not Livepeer Studio, the LoRa Studio or whatever it was, They have a list of the LORAs you can try to apply. One of them was turn the people upside down. So like another one was like make people look like trolls from the movie Labyrinth from the 1980s. You know what I mean? It's like really fine tuned, like very niche, like anime. Make it like Papa Bear said, make something pixelated. Like they have like these. They're just ways to like stack on some customization to the base model so that you can get a very specific output, and it's an easy computationally cheap way to do that. But when we were looking at AI generator, I don't know if you were here for that, Rick. We were talking about like, oh, okay, cool, LoRa supports here. Now, how would I actually like write a test and show somebody with that LoRa working? Like, how would an AI generator use that, or what would a user who wanted to apply the LoRa, what type of application would use that? What's the use case?
Is it just me, or is Mike cutting in and out quite a bit?
I was gonna say, Mike, you're breaking up really bad.
Driving through a tunnel again,
He's probably walking.
walking around.
Yeah.
I think all he's trying to say is like you got to pick the LoRa for your use case. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
you
course.
just yeah.
Yeah, you can.
He's
I think a good example is I think LoRa's are on Val.ai, not to want to be too commercial. They have some examples how they do it. So here, and I saw
Yeah,
other apps also
but
doing
when I've
LoRa.
used them, oh,
Alex Lab. Anyone know where Alex Labs is located?
No.
I did not.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry, didn't realize it.
Cool. So yeah, I just updated my discovery to 3,000 milliseconds. And now what's cool is I think I'm getting, 8 orchestrators for the image to video pipeline. Maybe not, but anyway, all the requests are actually getting completed now. That's amazing.
Yeah, Brad did an amazing job. It's on that point.
It's really, really helpful. Now, I'm actually going to be able to have my site working again. Great, because it was down for a while. So I had it pointing to my own orchestrator because it's the only one that would respond in time. So now I actually can use the whole network. So I'm really, really happy with it.
Yeah, so I think Brandon and I talked already about it, so it could be on a job basis. Maybe he said that as well. But currently, we don't have any real-time jobs.
Cool. All right. So just one last comment about the LoRa's. Is this something that orchestrators need to configure, or is this by default in the Go Livepeer pipeline that we don't have to change anything?
It's by default, so everything is automatic.
Wonderful. And so does that take up more VRAM by default then?
Yes. So that's why we implemented like the upper limit of a minimum of 2 gigabytes VRAM available. So then it will clean out LoRa's. LoRa's for the normal base models are not too big, between 50 megabytes, and I think the biggest one I saw was 800 megabytes. Flux LoRa's can be big. I saw one that was 2.5 gigabytes.
Right, so if you've got the extra 2 gigs of space, it will just automatically load the LoRa's and allocate it.
Yes, exactly.
What if you
So
don't
that's
have
what
the
we
space?
also.
So LoRa. Sorry.
Yeah, so if you don't have space, you will error out with I think their CUDA memory, what you normally have, and the job will go to somebody else. So I would advise to keep, that's for all the models. I myself keep normally 2 gigabytes up to 4 gigabytes free. But because of course your latency score will also suffer.
Right, of course. Yeah, well, this is managing our equipment already. We've just got to keep an eye on it. Cool. No, I'm glad that it's just automatic. I don't have to add any flags or anything. The awesome feature to note us. Run around and start changing.
Yeah, I didn't want to
Is
do
there
that
any
either.
price
And
impact of LORAs? If I use
currently
LORAs, does
not.
that make it?
So we could discuss that. So it could make sense
Okay.
to have a price impact there. But we didn't yet implement that. We thought about it, but not yet implemented. It's similar. So there is something else we have to implement. That's like the latency score has to be improved, because now LoRa's they will have they will add some latency. It will go to all the orchestrators. So in the end, you will have the same mean result, but it will lead to more switching of orchestrators. So what you can do there, you can add a second dimension, or you can, for example, use a mean latency over the last 100 requests there, or something else statistically test. So that's something that we also have to look at. So this feature is not finished yet. So payment is one, latency score fixes is one. But it gives a lot of flexibility to the network. Everybody keeps asking. We don't need to do anything. Did we made it so difficult the last 12 months?
No, I think that AI JSON becomes a bit of a burden, having to keep modifying it for models, pipelines, prices, USDs, currencies. Like, it's just a lot of work in that file.
Yeah, 100% agree. So the next step they would want to take for orchestrators to make it easier is, for example, automatic downloading for models. And you can see that it's the same VRAM mechanism or then on disk space that we're thinking about. So you just allocate a certain disk space and your models will be downloaded automatically. There are some fixes we have to do, but then also you don't have to do that. And the configuration that could be changed as well by, for example, making this endpoint where you can call that you can add some models dynamically or something like that. But we haven't investigated that area yet.
Yeah, automatically downloading models, nice feature. I went to go download. Like, it's been a while since I downloaded the models for. I wanted to run the anything model, and I didn't want to download everything else with the bash. I was like, I just wanted this specific model. So I ended up finding it and downloading it, but yeah, it would be cool just to have here, this model wasn't located. The binary is just gonna download it based on your request and put it in there, like a one-time.
Yes. Yeah, so to Tom's team from Studio, because they're also joining, they looked for onboarding tasks, and I gave them this one as an example. There are two things you have to do here. The error communication has to be improved on startup. And the second thing that you have to do is you have to ensure that the timer that we use is not triggered. That's for the warm loading. If you have the cold loading model, what you have to do, you have to also directly communicate that an orchestrator is loading the model. But it's not a hard feature to implement, but it needs some thinking how to get those things right. So hopefully the studio team takes on that tasks, and we will have automatic loading as well in the future. And otherwise, it's something that my team also wants to take.
Rick, how do orchestrators monitor if they're timing out? Like if the flux, or a large LoRa is downloaded and they just don't download it in time.
So that's a good question. The download time, the longest one that I saw for Flux, it really depends on your. So for the request, it doesn't matter. So if you're talking about LoRa's, there's not a timeout on the request unless correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but if the client doesn't set a timeout in the request in the SDK or the curl, there is no limit in how long it can take, I think, right? Or is there a limit on the request?
I think so. I think so. Or the timeout's so obnoxiously long that it's kind of a no-op.
Yeah, but it's a good question. I don't think there's a timeout. I haven't seen it in the code. Should there be a timeout? I think that's up to the client to decide how long they want to take.
Yeah, I agree.
So for LORAs, yes. For normal model downloading, it's a different question, of course. So for cold loading and downloading a model, what we have to do, we have to communicate that the orchestrator is downloading. It sends the request back, and then another orchestrator gets the job. One thing that we did improve as well is we improved the return value to the client. So now when something goes wrong, for example, a LoRa is not found, the client, so the application will get an error, but this LoRa, it doesn't exist for the base model. And we have a pull request to do that for all the pipelines. So the interface will be a lot cleaner for the application user, because up till now you get or an internal server error back, or you get an insufficient capacity.
Right. Question. Gonna keep going on my topic, which was around like how many models can we fit onto a single GPU, and like how does that work? I just noticed that I think the anything model is quite light. Like I see that it's only taking up like 2 gigs of RAM. Is that about right? I'll see.
Yeah, I only
Yeah,
saw it around
that
2.
sounds, that's about right.
So can we load up multiple of these models and have them available on one GPU then?
Yes, I did 12 in the maximum, but it's not wise because your GPU will slow down.
Yeah,
So I think I would not go, for example, my 3090, I tried it on, but Brett has more experience with it. I wouldn't go higher than 2 or 4. But you can use the benchmark to see. We fixed the benchmarking test, so you can see how good it works there.
So what?
Yeah, I would stick to 2 for most of the part for the most time. It really because if both are processing at the same time, you're gonna hit your processing or memory bandwidth limits on your GPU, and your latency is gonna be way off on it compared to when they're not processing at the same time. I tend to find like faster models tend to be better together because they'll be done faster. You know, the requests don't always come in at the exact same moment, so it'll be like a half slowdown. SAM2 is good to load on top of other ones because it has a lot of fees or it did before the request kind of cooled down, and it's light, and then I think it's good for on something like ByteDance because ByteDance usually processes so fast.
Right. So the problem you have with loading multiple models isn't the RAM usage anymore. Speed of which the compute gets done.
Yeah.
Right. So you could almost
Yeah,
do
so
like
at 12,
There's only so many CUDA cores at the time, so it's got to process them.
yeah, at 12 it was standing still nearly. So
because I got my 3090 in a machine, but I also got Phoenix's 4060 there with 8 gigs of RAM. You could probably put two SAMs on there as well.
Yeah, and SAM2 is a little bit lighter just overall. It doesn't seem to use all the GPU. It has other limitations most likely. So it's actually a pretty decent one to load on top of other ones.
Right. How do I load 2? Is it just in the config file just specifying, 1 and then 2?
You have to do an external container. Rick posted a guide. I don't know if he has that real quick, otherwise I'll go find it.
yeah.
You have to spin up a whole nother Docker container?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not hard. I sent it in the chat.
Yeah, right. So, but you would also then have to increment your like port for your CLI and all this kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. So you could use networking, Docker networking if you want, but I haven't written a guide for that as well. I think that will not work because we haven't implemented. Forget what I said. So we haven't implemented.
I
that
use
yet. We
Docker
have to-
networking. I use Docker
Yeah.
networking. It works fine with external Docker containers, but the managed containers don't work with Docker networking.
Yeah, actually, thanks for clarifying that. So I have to hop again. Sorry, guys. I have another appointment.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Rick.
So thank you, Rick. I appreciate man, everyone from the AI SPE team. You guys are responsible for the uptick in fees on the network. So that was actually one of the last topics we're going to jump into. But yeah, thanks for all the help, Rick.
No problem. Also, a shout out to Anne, who helped us coordinate with the startups and Carbon from the ecosystem team. So it was really nice to see people or orchestrators winning tickets. Bradwell has been working hard to spin our base capacity down to ensure that you guys get enough tickets there. We can, of course, do a better job. We will do in the future. We will make it automatic, and we will share eventually. Hopefully, something that also can be used by the other orchestrators. So have a nice evening, morning, afternoon. I talk to you soon. If there are any questions, always ask me, Brad, John, Peter.
Very good. Awesome. Papa Bear says LoRa example. It's a Lego LoRa. Yeah, it's awesome. Jason says the only no need to understand it. It loads automatically. Yeah, that's true. That's awesome. And Various says I didn't have to do anything in terms of networking to run multiple models. I think Docker overrides UFW. Does Docker override Linux firewall?
Yes. Yes. If you expose ports on the Docker host, you have to do special rules to allow UFW to prevent it. It's not automatic. It will override UFW.
Oh, so if you're running Docker containers, you don't have to mess with UFW?
Ideally, I mean, depends on your scenario, right? Like if you want ports open, like for example, if you don't want your CLI port open to the public, right? So you want that protected. So if you open that port in Docker, it will open it on your host as well, and UFW won't stop it. So you have to be careful. Some ports you want open, but some ports you don't want open. So you definitely got to be careful when using Docker networking.
I didn't know that. Okay. Good to know. I feel like I have exposed ports.
Send me your DM me your orc and your gateway, and I'll tell you what ports you have open.
I just have a Docker socket. Docker sock. This. Okay, yeah. Here, I'll send you my
Like the public DNS, just the public DNS or the public IP. Just send that to me, and I'll figure out what you have open.
Oh, you figure out what I have open. Oh, okay. How exciting. Your message cannot be delivered because you do not share a server with this recipient. Are we not friends, Mike? What's going on here?
I don't know what happened. Somebody else DM'd me or sent me a message on a Discord saying that friendship was lost somehow. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happened. I've been having all kinds of weird Discord things going on.
Fair enough. There you go.
Don't ever send tokens. If I send you a message asking for tokens, don't send any because I didn't ask. So I'm joking, but that's how it goes. You have Discord issues and you find out your account's hacked, and next thing you know, your friends are you're getting asked for tokens. So no, I won't ask you for any tokens ever or your wallet.
Of course not. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I will DM you my domain and what port we're running on, and we'll see what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be really helpful to know if I'm like exposed. Because Prometheus in the Docker container then? For the Go Livepeer? Because I'm running an external Prometheus that's listening onto the CLI port. Assuming that's not the right way to do it.
We can get into all that stuff for sure. I think ideally if Prometheus is connecting the CLI port, if that just means the CLI port is open, and if you have your private key on there, it's probably not a good thing.
Well, I definitely don't have the private or public key of my orc, right? That's one
Yeah,
thing.
then you're probably not a big threat then.
You're gonna get my
You
dummy
don't want
key.
that in general.
I mean, if you could get like $100 worth of like ETH to for all my reward call or like my redeem ticket calls.
Yeah, you limit your exposure,
Yeah.
but again, it's ideally you probably don't want that port open ever.
Yeah.
There's ways around that too.
Of course.
I'll shoot you some guides that'll help you tighten that up a little bit.
Shout out to Authority Null for his guide on how to run a secure orchestrator node. If you haven't done that already, good. The correct way, I think, at this. Okay, cool. So yeah, running multiple models on a single GPU is fine as long as you're not overdoing the actual compute speed of the GPU. It doesn't become a RAM issue anymore; it becomes a speed issue. So, from what I've heard, you can run maybe 2 models at most. Whatever, you have to do benchmarking, do your own benchmarking. So with that being said, but then you need to run separate Docker containers per instance of the model you're running.
Yeah, AI runners. You need to run multiple AI runners. You still run only your single orchestrator, but in your AI JSON, your AI models JSON, there's an entry that will give you instead of the Livepeer spinning up one container for you, you manage the number of containers in your AI model JSON. It's all covered in Rick's guide, but that's the essence of it. The AI model JSON has the URLs to the Docker containers. Yeah, you're not running multiple orcs. You're just running multiple AI runners.
Okay, multiple AI runners, but the orc is still managing only one income, and then within the AI runners, it's distributing the work and then sending it back. So you don't need to run multiple orcs.
Yeah,
you're just running multiple AI runners behind the orc.
It's sort of like a mini pool, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's correct. And the linkage from the single org to multiple runners is defined in your AI model JSON.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Now
there's a lot of moving parts. This isn't like transcoding, so
it's
definitely I could see how a lot of people get confused. But I think these are the times where drawing a nice picture and having showing how these pieces fit together helps make it. But it's in the guide. When you read the guide, you'll see it. That's also a model, and you could say, okay, I have one GPU and I'm running this model, this price. You can have a different model with a different price. And
price 0. Anyway, yeah, I'll follow the thing. You're cutting out a lot, Mike. It's really hard to listen.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's just like listening to somebody in an elevator cutting out a lot.
There was a feature in the config to provide a URL, right, to the containers?
Yeah, it's like
yes,
localhost port 9000 and 9001. Like yeah. Okay, cool. I'll follow the guide. I mean, the guide is probably pretty straightforward. I just haven't read it yet, so it's hard. No reason for me to be asking questions when there's literally a guide right here. So I will.
Yep.
I'll follow the guide, and that'll be great. Okay. With that being said, our last topic is around increase of fees on the network. Big shout out to the Livepeer network for having a green candle. I mean, they're all green, but like a green candle on the fees paid section. We can see that it's it's going up and to the right, and a lot of the fees have been incurred in the last week. So, anyone want to have any comments or questions around the uptick in fees, what it means for the network, where are they coming from? Anyone got info, insight, or opinions on it? Anyone at all?
Yeah, so my understanding is we went from like off chain to on chain or something. I think is what happened around the studio side. I don't know, maybe studio team could give more detail there. I just wanted to point out that I noticed our transcode minutes is correlated with that dollar amount value, and I think down the road we're looking at adding a differentiator to those tickets so that we can count them separate from live video or video transcode.
Is there information on the graph as to, or like metadata in the transactions that explain its AI or not?
No, currently we don't have any data on chain that represents that it's an AI ticket related to AI work.
Right.
But yeah, I think there was a sort of a cutover that we saw. I don't know if anyone else could speak more directly to that, but that's kind of what it looks like. But yeah, they're popular.
Rick has a Dune dashboard I just put a link to that has AI broken out. If anyone's curious.
Yeah, he has a hard coded list of AI gateways, so it's it's not 100% comprehensive, but it's pretty good. And I think where the bulk of the work's coming from, you'll see it's in that Dune dashboard separated out. So, but just being part of the Livepeer Cloud Gateway, we saw that there's definitely been some increase in the SAM2, and I think everybody noticed the uptick in SAM2 requests, and that was one of the startup program members that are running their workload through Livepeer Network. So we definitely see on the Livepeer Cloud Gateway an uptick, and I know there was some capacity limits of the Livepeer Cloud Dev Gateway, so I think the AISPE team was helping by getting another gateway up, doing some of that work. But both gateways were paying out to the whole network. So you definitely saw a lot of activity on the SAM2 stuff.
Very cool. All right. Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah. So it's good.
Yeah, up and to the right. I think that's brought some new people into the ecosystem. I think that's created excitement around adoption. Maybe the token price has been reflected in that, and there's been back into the increased fees on the network. So yeah, that's cool. I'm very excited about that. Josh says, I believe transcoding has seen a slow but steady uptick in the past week or so, hoping to keep that up in addition to growing the AI work on the network. Awesome. Good. I know I'm seeing a lot more transcoding work, to be honest. Like, I'm actually happy with the amount of work I'm getting. Like lately, it's been non-zero for a while now, and it is much more exciting. Whereas maybe 6 months ago, I would be sitting at 0 for quite some time. So, right on. Cool. Keep bringing in the fees. Keep building. If we need to spin up more GPUs, or if there's recommendations on which GPUs and models to spin up, that'd be great. But yeah, we'll just kind of keep developing. I'm glad to see we got a lot more customization in with the gateway. We can specify timeouts, and we can include the whole network, so we don't get segregated from EU, North America, Asia. Just kind of good that we can now have the ability to really reach every GPU on the network. I think that's going to be really powerful. Okay, well, with that being said, any last comments or questions or topics we'd like to cover that we haven't yet? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for everyone coming to today's water cooler chat. I'm going to try and get a Q&A session lined up for next week, so we'll see how it goes. Trying to get Nick on here, but he was just in Singapore helping out with the Livepeer team. Probably jet lagged and able to come on, but hopefully he'll join us next week. In the meantime, thank you for everyone for coming, being here, making Livepeer the open and decentralized video and AI network of the world. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.